Yeah. Toes spread, breathing through the nose. Chest up, lifted, buoyant, taking the pelvic floor up as well. Just like the lift of the chest is bringing the pelvic floor with it. Raise the arms when you're ready. Lightly tone the tummy from pubis to chest. Investigate ways of bringing together the experience, bringing the experience together. So that light tone of the tummy, bringing together with it the buoyancy of the pelvic floor. Bend the ankles, knees, and hips and reach forwards to Utkatta, playing with the squatting or semi-squatting position in ways that suit your back and your body this morning, turning the hands in or out or up, or turning the body left or right, or bouncing subtly, or bouncing less subtly, moving in ways that are direct responses to the way things are, direct, immediate responses. So yogis, of course, practice shunyata, the practice of emptiness. Standing, big circle, hands to heart. We do it again, so Francis, don't miss out. Raise up the arms and lightly tone the tongue and feel a sense of disappearing and reappearing in this experience which is beyond thought. You can only know it through giving to it. Bend ankles, knees, and hips. Again, play in your own way. Don't hold the breath. Don't drag anything from yesterday through into today. You don't have to. The dhammas arise and pass according to some early schools of Buddhism. Those are sensations. The dhammas are little particles of reality that arise and disappear without a trace, not even connecting to the next one. Every moment is made of entirely new dhammas. Inhale, come up, big wide circle, hands to the hips, step your feet apart. Breathe through your nose, turn your left toes in and spread out the little toe of the left foot as you lift your right heel. Turn on the ball of the foot and finish off the turn on the heel. Stretch into the back leg, but bend the front knee. Repeat lots of different movements to bring about union. Personally, I find things like lifting my heel is sometimes useful. I don't know if you can find utility in that. Of course, utility means that we can utilize it for union. Elbow down, arm up, hands spread out wide, breathing deep and honest. Maybe up and over if it feels right and good. Again, maybe heels lift occasionally if you can utilize it for the benefit of bringing everything together. This is what we sometimes call goddess worship, because the goddess is the one field. There's nothing that's not part of the goddess, not a single thought, idea, tree, mountain, squirrel, giraffe, hippopotamus, leaf, caterpillar, etc. Okay, arm down, palm down, push into your leg, come up on the inhalation. Hands on the hips. 2 or 3 or 4 deep breaths. Just find your pelvic floor. And to do that, again, it's the throwing the cup into the ocean rather than trying to put the ocean in the cup. So there's a sense of surrender. Back toes in while you stay in touch with the pelvic floor. Front foot and leg out on the ball of the foot. Finish off the turn on the heel. If ready, perhaps through multiple reiterations, bending and extending, making sure to stretch into the back leg and elbow down, palm up, fingers spread on both hands, breathing naturally, organically. You can stretch up and perhaps over. Light tone on the tummy, really spread out. Everything has this feeling of spreading out, just as the sun is beginning to rise and spreading out across the land. It's very exciting. The seagulls are very excited about it. Okay, arm down, palm down, push. Inhale, come up, well done. Feet face forwards. Take a couple of blocks and put them in front of you while I change the lighting a little bit. Because I don't think the spots above you are so nice. And I think a spot on me would be nicer for the Zoomers. You know, you've got a lovely face like mine, you want to light it up. So 2 blocks in front of you. Let's see, that's better. That's better for all, I think. Then you can see Siddhartha Gautama. 2 blocks in front of you. And speaking of the goddess, I think it was Sally Kempton that first called this the goddess pose. Sally Kempton, who's no longer with us, sadly. Turning your toes out away from each other. So turn your toes out away from each other to the extent that you can without falling over, obviously. And then bending ankles, knees, hips, and incorporating. So I use movement. I'm sure that's the same for you. Movement, for example, side to side, or of my toes. The purpose has to be clear, and it is clear. Incorporation or yoga. You can reach down for the blocks. Some people might find it useful or utility in it, lifting the toes. Some people find that useful. Some people, I think, that makes them a little unhappy. But, you know, if it works for you, it works for you. It's a suggestion. And oftentimes, if you do lift your toes, you might be able to turn your legs out a little further. And then we raise the arms. Breathe easy, let it move if you want to. Call it the goddess pose. I think of it as the funky crab. Inhale, come on up. Oh, it's the upcoming that's hard. Turn the feet in, hands on the hips, some huffing plus puffing, an optional additional huffing on top of that. And why not chuck in a bit more puffing while you're at it? And while you're huffing and puffing, you can be turning your toes in and spreading out the little toe side of the feet repeatedly. Abhyasa, Sanskrit for repetition, and recommended by the Yoga Sutra. Abhyasa vairagyabhyam. It's not entirely clear whether it's practice or it's practice of vairagya. Vayagra, meaning non-attachment, which is a word that needs explaining. Flow, let's call it flow. Inhale, lift up, exhale, fold. Keep the chest open. If you fancy it, try a wheelie, both feet at the same time, if you fancy it. And then see if you can use that to, by moving your pelvis, incorporate more fibers together before landing the feet. The toes can turn in. We do want to balance between inner and outer ankle. Some people's lower backs will have dipped, so please feel free, if that has happened, to make your back feel more comfortable by coming lower. But of course, for many of us, it doesn't feel more comfortable to come lower. So it's only if the lower back is concaved downwardly. Reiteration of the balance of the feet is the best bit about the pose, in my opinion. So you sort of tune and you retune. It's beautiful. And the tuning and retuning is flow, because we're bringing everything together instead of particularizing. Any particularizing blocks flow. And it's the flip side when we talk about, samsara and nirvana. Samsara meaning the cycles of conditioned existence, nirvana meaning enlightenment, or waking up. You could call it bodhi, you could call it mukti. They're basically the same thing, just flipped, So Enlightenment's where everything, we're not particularizing. There's a profound sense of upeksha, equanimity. And that comes physically. We can bring that about physically by incorporating. So iterating, reiterating. This, of course, is Prasrita Padottanasana. Okay, bringing yourself up, nice and slow and calm. Walking your feet towards each other before ascending all the way. And take a breath or two. Now you might need to use blocks for your heels because we're going to come to a squat. And if the heels are not on the floor, then put blocks under the heels. The hands can come to prayer in between the legs, and the heel of the hand at the xiphoid cartilage, or the xiphisternum, as I think doctors and nurses call it. Thank you, doctors and nurses, for all you do. And then maybe movement. Obviously, the pelvic floor muscles go around the tailbone, and they're muscles, so they can hold tension. And that tension is normally associated with some sort of grunty, that is to say a knot, or we could say solidification, concretization. So in the last 25 years, the yoga world has been suffused with flow this and flow that, hatha flow, vinyasa flow, all the different flows. And I actually think it's great. Well, just the word flow, I think it's great. Because flow is the same as vairagyam, non-attachment. And it's just, it can be a better way of thinking about it, non-attachment, as flow. Because it means you're not snagged. Think about going through a forest, and if you get your clothes snagged, or going through the forest smoothly. So your breath is your guide. When the breath is expressive and harmonious, then disparate parts of the body that have been arrested by patterns also come into harmony. Okay. Releasing back to the floor, so you could take your hands back onto the floor if that way works for you. And descending, bring your bum a little forwards, take hold of your big toes, or the padangushtas. That is the angushtas of the padas. That is the thumb of the foot. That's how it directly translates from the Sanskrit. Leaning back until your feet come up, breathing through your nose until your eyes become softer, moving subtly or otherwise until you disappear and reappear in the dance beyond thinking, which is the Icha Shakti, the will of the goddess. The dance beyond thinking is the will of the goddess. And whatever our conditioning is, it's limited. Even if you're conditioned to be like really super, maybe Joanna Lumley's your mum and David Attenborough's your dad, and you're just super. Even then, it's limited, Obviously, David Attenborough is not limited. He's unlimited, pure consciousness manifest. We love you, David and Joanna. Extend your legs if you wish in celebration of David and Joanna, or anyone else you want to celebrate. And breathe easy, jaw soft. So the legs can be apart or together, or bent, or straight. All that matters is flow. And that must express in the breath if it's anywhere. So the legs can be, bent down on the floor, and you could even have one heel down. It's about the flow. That's all it's about. It's all it's ever been about. So Ubhaya Padangusthasana. Both big toes is what it means. Good job. Cross your legs. Sukhasana, gap between the legs and pelvis. Can sit on a block. Draw the buttock flesh out and back. Loosen off the back a little if you want. Sometimes it's useful to wiggle. The buttocks have their fair share of fatty tissue, which is one of the reasons why buttocks are so marvelous. The fatty tissue has a higher water content, so actually they make quite a good thing to sort of shimmy around on, because there's a fluidity. And that fluidity points to the fluidity that we're fostering, that we are valorizing even. A fluidity that is itself equanimity, because it doesn't get stuck on anything, It's as fluid as reality, and reality is a dance. And that, the dance is moving at whatever pace it's moving. Sometimes, beautiful, slow movements. Other times, something else. When you're ready and feeling looser, and that's indicated in your breath, then rise up from the inner groins, through the side ribs and chest. Lift high on the inhale. On the exhale, bring your right hand on the floor behind you. Left hand crosses over both legs. Now, if you start with your palm in, it's a quietening feeling. So that's quite nice. If you keep your palm in and slide it towards your pelvis, it will make your chest feel closed, and you'll feel compelled in a good way to open the other side of the chest more, in other words, to turn a little further, to bring about the equanimity and the flow that we've been praising. And then thirdly, a third way is to turn the palm out and to roll it back again towards the knee. And as it rolls, there's a rolling out of the shoulder and a rolling open of the chest, which you can naturally, meditatively mirror on the other arm. Don't hold the breath. Soften your eyes. Surrender here and now. This is new, and everything you need is in it. Upadana, reaching out, like something's missing, is what keeps the wheel of samsara rotating around. That's why upadana, which means reaching out, is oftentimes translated simply as fuel. Return to center, pause in the center, take a deep breath. You can take Jnana Mudra or Jnana Mudra. They're the same thing, just pronounced differently. Inhaling when you're ready to lift. Exhaling to turn. Start with the palm in. Let's just experiment with these different hand positions. Breathing calmly with lovely soft eyes. And soft jaw. Now slide your hand towards a bit closer to your pelvis. And it will make you feel a little bit closed. So we open the back arm to keep both sides of the chest open. You can even walk your back arm further back if that feels good, interesting, dynamic, challenging, positively challenging. Myself, breathing deep, natural, expressive, organic. And then finally roll your hand to roll it out so it slides back. And then mirror that rolling out on the other side of the chest in a meditative manner. And then return to center when you're ready. Take 3 deep breaths with an emphasis on the exhale. Eyes soft, brain soft, throat soft. Take 1 block. Here at the BBC, our blocks are purple, homaging in our own way. Prince, or the artist formerly known as. And then sitting on the block with the corner facing forwards. Marvelous Prince. What a marvel he was. Drawing the butterfly out and back. My son's wife, Karina, who lives with us, she was very pleased to find out the other day that she's exactly the same height as Prince. She was overjoyed to find that news out. So, oh my God, she kept talking about it all day long. And the same height as Prince. I can't remember. I think it's 2'3", actually. It's like you have to be careful where you walk. With heels on, 2'3", with heels on. The heels were 3 foot long. Roll the shoulders back. I'm not sure how. 5'1"? I don't know, something. Is that the same as you? Oh my God, same print. Roll the shoulders back, shoulder blades back, chest up, breathe through the nose. And enjoy the moment, enjoy the memory of how marvelous Prince was. Perhaps you can recollect some of his marvelous clothes, for example, the white furry boots. They were good. Chest up, chest up, chest up with the tummy too. Enjoy if you want. Enjoyment normally means surrender to the goddess, because what is not enjoyable is the uncertainty of attaching identity to the ever-changing and co-created reality, what Buddhists call praticca samutpada. So the goddess traditions, obviously there have been goddesses forever, but the goddess traditions become really apparent in South Asian tradition around the 7th to 8th century, probably a little earlier. So later Buddhists were, more goddess orientated, but earlier Buddhists less so, using abstractions like praticca samutpada. Inhale, lift and turn towards your foot. Breathe as if everything was all right. Breathe as if your toes felt good and you could feel your toes on both feet, the tip of the toes on both feet. Don't hold the breath. Sit a tiny bit taller, orientating around the central channel. The Madhya Nadi. Madhya meaning central. Nadi is a channel from the Sanskrit root nad, which means to flow. So that's an important thing to understand about the word nadi. It comes from that root, to flow, which is why we get the other word. We get nadi and we get nadi. Nadi, channels, nadi, river. Lift and turn. And feel energy release into your back leg. Don't hold the breath. Breath is everything. Breath is everything. Tiny bit taller if you can, just a little. Yeah, that's good. Actually, while you're at it, a little bit more again. Yeah, go on. Trouble is, if you show me a tiny bit taller, I know you've got a tiny bit more in still to go. because everyone always leaves a bit in the bank. Okay, return to center. And then we're just going to lean forwards a teeny bit, like maybe that much. Unless it feels comfortable to go up to 30 degrees, but not beyond, with the pelvic tilt. Breath, 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 breath. Okay, groovy. Come on out if you can. And then lay down on your back. Oh, hang on, not yet. Oh, someone's phone ringing. Saying yoga's time to start yoga. Time to do that alarm's going off because, of course, it's time for Supta Sukhasana. And we always set an alarm for that because it's important not to forget it. So 2 blocks, long side to long side, just to be clear, like that, not like that. No, yes, no, yes, like that. There can be a little gap between them. Thank you for bearing with me and all that comes out of my mouth. And crossed legs, fingers face forwards, buttocks tucked under, elbows next to the floor, tuck under again, and then all the way down. And this is, as I said, Supta Sukhasana. Now, some people find it useful to raise the arms up and to wave them side to side as they bring them over their head. So you could try that if you wanted to. Of course, it's about incorporation. Again, so every single fiber coming together. And repetition, reiteration, and breath. Jaw passive. Neck soft. And all the time, the expressive breath. And notice when the breath loses its sort of expressive flow, normally the mind has got caught up. You can think, one way to think of a grunty or a knot is like a moth around a flame. And obviously it's not good for moths to go around flames, for moths, that is. But they kind of orbit around, or around any kind of light. And they get sort of fixated, and it's a sort of, it's unfortunate, very unfortunate if it's a flame, a bit unfortunate if it's a light, because what they need to be orientating around is the moon, of course. So similarly for us, if there's a lack of flow, it's like we're orbiting around a sort of light, a sort of object of attention, past, the future, an idea about ourselves in the present, such as I like, I don't like, I'm young, I'm old, I'm nice, I'm not nice, I'm attractive, I'm unattractive. And most people oscillate between these things, rapidly and according to situations. Feel free to move if movement is helpful, such as wiggling or moving the pelvis can be sometimes useful in terms of stretching more the back or the adductors. Change the cross of the legs when you're ready. And breathe through your nose. So resistance is our ally. It's our pathway. So anywhere you feel resistance, and if you're not sure, you can find it by using the breath to scan through the body. For example, the inner thighs. And if the inner thighs are holding tension, so will the breath be. And that will normally be associated with some sort of doubt around a view, an opinion, you know, and sometimes they're so deep in our subconscious, you know, we can have all sorts of deep views we don't even know about, like, oh, Tuesdays are never good days. I'm not saying you think that, but, you know, or people with mustaches, they're, you know, steer clear of them. You know, we have these deep subconscious views and opinions that are perceptual, they're part of our perception. So finding areas of tension is going to find holding in the breath, the brain, the body, and the universe in terms of our perception. Arms forwards when you're ready, legs come together onto the lift. Press into the triceps to tricep shimmy closer to the lift. So tricep shimmy is done with your hands as if you're holding a jet pack. The handle's on a jet pack, so you probably know what that's like. Probably some of you jet packed here this morning. It's 2023 after all, so there must be jet packing going on. And then we're just going to lift the derriere up in the air and let it sway around or tilt or bounce or swoop. Still slightly carrying on the jetpack theme with the swooping and the swaying. And we're looking for love as an experience of the body. Looking for love as an experience of inclusion. Love is an experience of inclusion. We want to raise the pelvis without the buttocks squeezing towards each other. So that's part of the skill here. And sometimes, you know, you can sort of shake it off. Taylor Swift would say, perhaps, if she was here, I'd probably charge her a little bit more, actually, on the door. She wouldn't notice, would she? Oh, yeah. Oh, concessions, Taylor, are £5,000. Okay, lowering your pelvis down, nice and easy, and popping the hands underneath the head, and taking 3 or 4 or 5 deep breaths. Jaw soft, eyes soft. Lifting up the feet until the lower back kisses the floor. Breathing. Open the angle at the back of the knees to about 90 degrees, please. Lift up your head, and perhaps you'll feel your lower back a little closer to the floor. And I hope you can find a way to really get into that and enjoy it. Breathe into it and disappear and return to the source. Remember the source, or the yoni is one way of putting that. The yoni can mean the source of the origin. Means that everything comes from everything else. No one has a thought without, you know, it being influenced by the world they live in and the opinions of the world that they live in, and so on. Take the elbow furthest from me and the knee closest to me when you feel ready towards each other. Make sure you're not yanking on the neck. The elbow and knee don't have to meet. It's just the pathway that we're following. Return calmly. Make sure your neck's peaceful before going the other direction. Breath is everything. Surrender and giving, incorporation. Return to center, head down. Feet down, deep breaths, plural. Really expressive. Let's raise a leg up. That's a good choice. Yeah, go for that one. Yeah, that one. I would have gone for that one too if I were you. And then dorsal and plantar flex, the foot, circle, half circle. Sometimes you can feel it on the plantar fascia. Some people are lucky enough to be stiff, right from a young age. Other people don't feel the benefit of stiffening up until they get a bit older. I've only just been started to feel tension in my plantar fascia, so I can really enjoy stretching it. So that's a wonderful thing about getting older. Thank you, old age. Heel in, toes out, cross that leg over the other. It's better than, I was sort of cocky, bouncy Jim, wasn't I, before? That sort of leveled me up a bit. Lift the foot that's on the floor off the floor. Breathe through the nose. Massage it in. So that can involve wagging your tail. It involves whatever it involves, or rolling, or whatever. It's as long as we know we're looking for flow, I think it's straightforward, and we know that that flow only exists if it exists everywhere, very specifically including the breath. You can lift your head up as well, making a sort of hybrid pose. And you can even straighten up the other leg if you want. Breathing easy. If you did straighten that other leg, bend it, bring the foot down, release the other leg and head down and breathe deeply. Jaw soft, eye soft. Raise up the other leg and again move back and forth. And if you can feel anything on the plantar fascia, then you can move that in ways that are better, and usually even if you can't feel anything, of course, there's mobility coming there. And the more you move the plantar fascia, the more it will keep flexibility. Plantar fasciitis is very common in many people. Particularly it becomes, unfortunately, more common in people as they get older. So you can avoid that by keeping movement in the plantar fascia. It also helps with the hamstrings and the rest of the back of the body. Heel in, toes out, cross that leg over the other. Lift the foot that's on the floor off the floor. And perhaps you can feel some stretches that are interesting enough. Because we're used to big entertainment, blockbuster movies, extra large bars of extra rich chocolate, and so then it's sometimes we don't realize that something is enough, because it's like it's not fireworks necessarily, but enough means that there's a sensation that has depth to it if you move into it. So don't hold the breath. Look for sensations that have depth. Again, you can lift the head if you want to add another dimension and even straighten up the upper leg. So this adds a hamstring stretch, extension of the tensor fascia lata. It adds abdominal tone. But of course, we still have our emphasis on flow. So movements of the foot, movements of the toes, movements of the whole body. Massaging it in. If you're ready to come out, then come down, nice and easy, and place and breathe. Yes. Let a few deep breaths come, letting them come. Eyes soft, jaw soft. Release your hands from behind your head and roll over when you're ready. Pushing your blocks to one side. Then coming onto hands and knees, if you please. And while you're doing it, if you don't mind, I'll have a little sip of this delicious barley cup. Barley cup, not working for barley cup, by the way. But I am up for it if they are watching this. Barley cup, I would happily work for you if you gave me free barley cup. Now, moving left to right, breathing easy. So you can feel your wrists. And it can be useful to just spread the fingers and to make sure the hands are even. And it's not necessarily a problem if there's discomfort on one hand or at any time, but simply to bring your attention to any discomfort or tightness, if there is any. Breath is everything. So use breath to tell you about the movements, the correctness of the movements. If ready, raise up one leg and the opposite arm and let there be fluidity. So this is Vyagrasana. Vyagra is tiger. Some people like to add a little extra dimension by bending the back leg and holding that. That's another dimension you may or may not want to investigate. That's either way is fine. Some people, by the way, are better with their toes pointing back and of the lower leg, and others with their toes tucked under. So those are options. Okay, good job. Back to hands and knees and a little bit of movement. Deep breaths, fluid movements mirroring fluid breath, toned tummy. When you're ready, stepping out. I always like to think, because it's called tiger, Vyagra, that, I like to think of it being like I'm about to take a big sort of tiger step forwards. Let it move around like a sort of relaxed tiger having a stretch. They are, after all, cats. So you can have a sort of, and tigers generally, I imagine, are fairly relaxed. Apex predators. If you want to take hold of the leg, you can. That's another option, with the toes tucked under or not. Breathing deep and honest. Great. Okay, and then back to the hands and knees, and back to some deep natural movement. Take the foot that's closest to me onto the little finger side of its own hand and have a bit of a play. Sometimes it's nice to tuck the toes under of the back leg and perhaps even to lift the knee. That's an option. You can lift it, or you can lift and descend it again. You can move forwards and backwards. There's a whole range. You can even let the weight move out to the little toe side of your front leg foot. You can sort of tiger creep forwards or tiger creep backwards. It's a lot of scope to play with this. And these, of course, are preparatories for Anjaneyasana, which is one of the names of Hanuman. Pavanaputra is another, son of the wind. Okay, coming up, nice and calm. Back to hands and knees. Take a deep breath, or two or three or four. Other foot forwards when you feel ready. You might want a few breaths before you do it, but when you feel ready. Little finger side of its own hand. Again, playing with it. You can range forwards or backwards. You can move more medially or more laterally. always searching for the flow, which is indicative of surrendering back to the goddess that which is hers, which is everything. Everything is hers. Every thought, every emotion is co-created, part of one field. This helps us take everything less personally, which helps us see it more objectively. When you take things personally, and then we can valorize or we can condemn, and we can feel shame and hide things and pretend, and we get into all sorts of webs that way. Again, there is the option to lift the back knee. Some people find that useful. It's part of the experiments. Okay, well done. Back to hands and knees when you're ready. Catch a deep breath or two, keeping the sense of flow, perhaps with physical movement as well. Bring the knee that's closest to me directly behind its own wrist, and it stays there while the foot moves diagonally across the body, and you stretch back your other leg. Coming down to your elbows, forearms, and wrists. So much beautiful natural light coming in. I'm going to turn the lights off because it's ruining the lovely, lovely natural light. So breathing easy. Jaw soft, eyes soft, brain soft, throat soft. Let it move around a bit if you find that useful. Sort of massaging it in. You can lift up if you want to do that version. Some people enjoy that version, so that's another option. The tummy should be toned if you do that. How high you lift is, again, up to you. That's about bringing another kind of stretch to the psoas and the rectus femoris, that go across the front of the pelvis. Breath, don't forget. Surrender to the goddess. She knows what you need to know. She knows. Coming forwards if you came up, to come out, tucking under the back toes and bringing the back knee forwards and back to hands and knees. Catch your breath there. A little bit of movement of the pelvis if you find it useful. Before bringing the other knee directly behind and the foot diagonally across the body and stretching back. Coming down to elbows, forearms, and wrists. Obviously, there should be no discomfort in the knee. If there is, you can lean across the knee where there's discomfort. Eyes soft. Those that want to come to the lifted version can do so now if you want. Ideally, there's some tone in the tummy that means that when you lift, you feel a sort of a taut feeling. The tummy feels sort of taut. Make sure areas that are tight are surrendered back to the goddess. She knows how to act, when to act. Much more than you or I ever could. Coming forwards to come out and tucking under the back. If you're upright, that is tucking under the back knee and coming up to sitting on the block for Siddhasana. The Tsalung Trukur for the Vyanavayu, the all-over energy. And remember, when we breathe out from this practice, we will be imagining that we're breathing out through every pore of the body. And then when we bring the energy down into the body, it goes everywhere. It's the Vyanavayu. So we'll be drawing the breath into the pelvic floor and then again and then again. So without breathing out, in a minute, you'll breathe in on top of the in-breath, you'll breathe in on top of the in-breath, with an intention to bring it down to the pelvic floor where we'll hold it at the pelvic floor while we take the following actions. Breathe out. You can imagine you're breathing out through every pore of the body. Okay. So when you clap your hands, that's gathering energy, and then you draw that energy down. So breathing and rebreathing into the pelvic floor. Shoulders down. Let them drop. The Buddha said the heart emitting loving kindness emits none. No one in all the world is left apart or kept aside from the heart emitting loving kindness, as if through the pores of your skin, every single pore. We'll chant the Shakyamuni mantra, which is very simple. I'll move to one side so you can see Shakyamuni. It's all Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakyamuni Swaha. Om Muni Muni means, Muni just means sage. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni. Maha means great sage. Shakyamuni. Shakya is the clan that the Buddha was part of, so he's the sage of the Shakya clan. Swaha means well said. So well said that nothing in all the world is kept apart or left aside from the heart emitting loving kindness. I'll chant it once and then I'll invite you to join. It's very simple. Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha. Now, Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha. Deep breath. We're going to lay on our backs for an extended period of 67 seconds. It doesn't start until you're laying down. Every single one of you, whether you're a roomer or a zoomer, it's not until the last person is laying down that that 60 seconds will start. So don't panic, relax. The irony of rushing for Shavasana. Make sure you're warm. And it's the final surrender. I remember once a graduate of the Vajrasati Yoga teacher training, she said, Jim, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can teach yoga. And I said, Gwyn, for that was her name, is her name. I said, you're right, you can't. And I wasn't trying to undermine her confidence. I was just saying, nobody can. Nobody can teach yoga, nobody can run, nobody can hug, nobody can dance, nobody can meditate. The point of those activities and so many others is that nobody does them. A self-construct is a rarefication of a tiny part of that which is dancing and co-created, and ultimately not within any one person's dominion. It's a dance. Thoughts arise, therefore, emotions arise, physical sensations arise. And if we take them personally, we might repress them, deny them, fuel them. If we don't take them personally, we observe them. We don't feel compelled at all. We feel compassion because we feel, oh, emotions arise like this. We don't judge other people so much anymore, or ourselves. So the outcome is very, very good from surrender here and now. Let everything melt. Feel in, gently feel into the body, like it was something really new. And you could almost imagine as you move your toes or fingers, that threads that connect infinitely to all other movements, to the movements of a caterpillar, to the movements of an albatross, to the movements of the planets. You moving your toes, everything in the universe moves. Everything in the universe moves, you move. Everything moves together. When you feel sufficiently embodied, you start to stretch out your own way. We'll then bend our legs, and that gives us a really lovely opportunity once the legs are bent to scoot the buttocks under, to take a deep breath, to release the lower back entirely. Roll onto your side, facing away from the shrine side of the room. And then roll back towards the shrine side of the room when you're ready. Bring yourself up calmly from the side and bring your hands to a prayer position. May any benefit that we've gained in our acting in this way be shared for the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. Om. Thanks very much for your time. Lovely to see you. Room